intro. When he walked in that door, I thought, results.
It's a music video I directed a few years ago with my colleague Wouter Stoter, and there's a lot of talking in it, but it is a music video. Yeah, I wanted to show it to you because I thought that was a really good short example of a film that immerses you into another story world, into an alternate reality. I think that all good stories should do that in one way or another on some level. I remember that when I was 7 years old, and it was my birthday, and we'd just come out of the cinema, and we were all bright-eyed and excited, the whole group of kids basically, and we'd just seen Back to the Future 2 from Robert Zemeckis. And back then, I mean, you guys live in Amsterdam as well, right? So you guys know what grafvuildag is. So when we came back from the cinema, there was rubbish day basically in my neighborhood on the street, and there I was with all this group of young kids basically. And you know, rubbish day is fantastic. I mean, you can find all these wonderful things on there, from dishwashers and couches to beds and dining room tables. So for a kid, that's like it's treasure. So we'd just come back to the neighborhood after watching the movie, and we had this mission. We were going to build a time machine just like the one that we'd seen in the movie. So, needless to say, obviously, what we got out of it was, after hours of scavenging and building, was like some very unsightly piece of modern art or whatever. But the point of the story is that at no point did we feel that what we were doing was impossible. The world of the story was so real to us that we felt that we could make anything come true. And I like to think back to a lot of these kind of memories as the defining moments that made me want to become a filmmaker. I mean, who wouldn't want to have that effect with your work on an audience? But I also realized that now that I have that career, and now that I actually do that, I also realize I can't just go back and do the same things that I did, or that they did, those movies did. Audiences have changed, and entertainment has changed. And it's not that, I mean, movies and stories in general, good stories, they're timeless. They always will be, but you still, if you go back and you try and you watch one of those old movies from 10, 20 years ago, you experience them differently now. You do. So what is it exactly that we experience differently in these movies? Sure, there's an aesthetic element to it. The colors and the music are a reflection of the taste of those decades, and the acting's a little bit over the top. I mean, now we prefer a lot more sort of realistic acting. CGI, dead giveaway. I mean, that's just technological advancements, basically. So, I mean, what more fundamental things have actually changed? Well, we've all heard, obviously, that art imitates life. So, we have to also understand that as our culture and our ideals and our needs and our technologies change, our storytelling and our story content changes with us. I mean, not even that long ago, some films depicted cultural ideals that were racist and sexist, that were very acceptable then, but would shock us now. And at the same time, we are exposed to very explicit content nowadays that would never have been shown 20 years ago. So, if we would, let's stop and try and think of where are we now, culturally speaking, and where is storytelling and entertainment going as a result of that? I was part of a phenomenon called the MTV generation in the 80s. And we were so bombarded with ever faster music videos, not that this was one of them, and shorter commercials, that we became so visually literate that storytellers and filmmakers had no choice but to change the pace of storytelling to sort of cater for our ever-waning attention spans. I mean, we'd get bored if anything was too long. And now, looking at you guys actually, now there's a new generation, and they're even more impatient and in need of more ways to multitask and in need of new forms of stimulation. And a lot of people might think, okay, that more traditional people may say, that that's a negative thing. But I don't think so. I think that this is the new evolution of story literacy. You know, I think that this is bringing in a new demand for the way that stories are told, and the way, maybe more importantly, even the way that stories are delivered. You know, we are literally, you know, we have access to any form of content at any time, sometimes for better and sometimes for worse. I mean, I remember when I was at school, you know, and if I was sick and I'd stay home, you know, I would have to watch whatever was on television. Now, I was born in Amsterdam, but I grew up in South Africa, and we only had 3 channels. So I was stuck watching things like infomercials and reruns of terrible soap operas, like Bold and the Beautiful, Days of Our Lives. And, you know, to be honest, now I have this choice. Whatever I want to watch, whenever I want, I can. I mean, Netflix puts up an entire season of their new shows all at once. You know, I mean, just the other week I was sort of stayed up all night long till the wee hours of the morning, kind of watching the whole entire season of Narcos. You know, until my eyes felt like they were bleeding and I couldn't keep my head up. I just had to watch one more. You know, and I bet you I'm not the only one. You know, I mean, everybody does that. And although I felt a little bit worse for wear the next day, I'm very happy that I have that choice. I mean, so basically we have this avalanche of choice flooding our waking lives, you know, all day, every day. And we've changed into an audience that are hungry for it, you know, and we're demanded. And it's not only that we have that, we're also able to process it. I mean, it's so much, there's this influx of new information that's just coming through us, and we love it. But it's not only that we are able to process it, we also process it simultaneously. I mean, I'm a little bit of a purist when it comes to watching my entertainment, my films. I mean, sure, I'm a director and it's an occupational habit. I want to watch every frame and every nuance of a film that I'm watching. But one of the biggest quarrels that I have with my girlfriend is, you know, quite often we're sitting on the couch watching something and she's flicking through Facebook at the same time. You know, and it drives me absolutely crazy to think that she is missing some magical moment while watching this movie. And I guess to a certain extent I'm kind of correct, because I can only hope that people watch my films in the same way that I'm watching them. But on the other hand, I also have to accept that, you know, that things are changing, and that she and people like her are perfectly able to concentrate and to enjoy the story on both screens at the same time. It's just the way that we're wired these days. So, and I mean, that's not all. I mean, just literally now, as we speak, around the corner there are new technologies in entertainment that are being developed in the realms of virtual reality and augmented reality and interactive storytelling. They cater even more to this insatiable need and hunger that we have for more information, more choice, and more interactivity. And as a filmmaker, I mean, this is fantastic. I have all these new tools. It's very exciting, you know, these new tools at my disposal. But at the same time, you know, and I'm going to gear back a little bit, at the same time, you know, we also have a responsibility, I mean, as filmmakers. You know, what are the things that are going to keep us a little bit grounded in all this expansion? You know, because it's constantly changing, and it's never going to stop. You know, so what are the things that we need to protect and preserve in storytelling? Oliver Sacks, he said that we tell stories because we cannot like mainline our experiences directly into the brains of other people. You know, we tell stories to make sense of our world and to make sense of the world of others. You know, and even though we have a heavy hand in how entertainment changes and how films that we're making are changing, we have to realize that they define us as much as we define them. So I mean, regardless of what format or what genre a film is, I mean, a good story to me is one that sort of explores the truth of the human condition. It reveals the truth of our constant struggle to define ourselves, you know, as individuals as well as human beings. You know, so and this is a really, really important point, every good story has one main idea or one existential question at the center of it. And we call this a premise. And this is what guides writers through a story. I mean, it's an incredibly difficult thing to do, writing a feature script. It's ridiculous. I mean, it can go anywhere. So what we do is we have a thing called a core premise, which is basically guides all our narrative decisions through that story and keeps everything as one whole. So when you finish watching a movie, you really feel like you've watched one big piece, because it's all boils down to this one core idea. So, so both has one core idea. So, I mean, it's not just the great, like really obvious greats that do this. You know, it's not just Casablanca and The Godfather, or more recently, Birdman and Le Grand Bellezza. You know, it's also Back to the Future 2. You know, Back to the Future 2 asks the question, how much should we know about our own destiny? You know, and that's not something you're going to see on a poster. That's not something that you're going to see, you know, that what you can explicitly come out of the cinema with having registered that. It's something, it's an underlying theme that that sort of relates to us on some level. So we've got to realize that the more stories relate to us, you know, the more they relate to us personally anyway, the more they do that, the more they touch us. And the more that they touch us, the more strength a story has or a film in any form. So we have to understand that, you know, that will never ever change. And only truth can actually do that, truth in our idea and the core of that story. And that will never change. And to be honest with you, you know, in the history of stories, that has never. And hopefully also with you guys here, that won't ever change again.